Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here, you're probably looking for those key insights, that spark of knowledge, without drowning in information. We totally get that.
We do. And today we're diving into something, well, maybe a bit unexpected for some.
Definitely. We're drawing from Annie, Sprinkle, and Jwala, specifically their work shared on Tantra.com. Our mission today, to really unpack this idea they talk about called energy orgasms.
That's right. It's a concept that might challenge or at least broaden the typical understanding of orgasm. They're suggesting there's a different kind of potential there tied into our body's energy.
Exactly. And it's not just, a curious sensation. According to the source, there are some potentially big benefits.
Yeah, they list quite a few. Things like clearing out repressed emotions, which is huge.
And boosting your overall energy, enhancing your sex life. And they even mentioned this could help people who haven't experienced genital orgasms yet.
Right. Plus, there's a spiritual angle they bring in, and even this idea it could be a safe substitute for harmful addictions or habits.
It's quite a range of claims, really. It definitely makes you pause and think.
It does. It frames orgasm potentially not just as a physical peak, but as something affecting us emotionally, energetically, spiritually even. It's a fascinating perspective.
Okay, so let's get specific. What is an energy orgasm, according to Sprinkle and Jwala? How is it different from, say, a clitoral orgasm, which is probably the most common reference point?
Well, they clarify that it can happen alongside a clitoral orgasm, but the feeling itself is distinct. It's described more like uh, electricity running through the body.
Electricity, wow.
Yeah, or tingling sensations, maybe in the hands or lips. A feeling of deep release, but also like you're receiving something, opening up.
Okay, so less localized, more whole body.
Exactly. People apparently report feeling kind of high, euphoric, lightheaded, and it might not even feel purely sexual in the way we usually think of it.
Interesting. And like other orgasms, I assume it varies from person to person.
Very much so. They emphasize that point. Just like, how other orgasmic experiences differ. There's no single blueprint for how an energy orgasm feels. It's individual.
Makes sense. All right, so the big question. How does one actually cultivate this experience? They provide a guide, right?
Yeah.
Steps 1 and 2 seem to be about preparation.
Yes, exactly. Step 1 is about your physical setup. They suggest lying down on a firm surface, like a hard bed or the floor knees bent.
Okay.
Though they do say standing or sitting is possible too, but lying down seems to be the primary recommendation to start.
Got it. Comfort, but also support.
Yeah.
And step 2 is more mental. Relaxed breathing, empty mind, letting go of tension, ego.
Oh.
Sounds like mindfulness.
It really does. It's about creating that internal space, that presence and openness. Quieting the usual mental noise seems key to letting new sensations emerge. Very common in these kinds of practices.
Okay, so you're settled, you're centered. Step 3 introduces a specific breath pattern.
Right. Deep inhales through the nose, exhales through the mouth. It's continuous, circular, no pauses in between. They use the image of gently blowing out birthday candles for the exhale.
Circular breathing. Okay, I've heard of that in other contexts. Helps build energy.
That's the idea, yeah. Keeping the flow going, building that charge without letting it dissipate during pauses.
Then step 4, layers in movement. Pelvic rocking with the breath.
Yes. As you inhale, you gently arch your lower back, rocking the pelvis forward slightly. On the exhale, you flatten your back and consciously squeeze your PC muscles.
Those pelvic floor muscles, right?
Exactly, the ones you'd use to stop the flow of urine. They point out this squeeze can actually stimulate the genitals a bit and helps pump the energy you're building.
And it mentioned legs moving like butterfly wings sometimes.
Yeah, almost involuntarily. It suggests maybe a release of deep tension happening. And importantly, they add, you should try to make the breathing and the squeezing feel erotic.
So consciously bringing in that sexual energy quality.
Right. Weaving it into the breath and the muscle contraction. It's a very deliberate combination of breath, movement, muscle control, and intention.
Okay, breathing, moving, squeezing. Now, step 5 moves into directing the energy using the mind.
Precisely. They state quite clearly, energy follows thought. It's a core principle. You start by visualizing drawing energy up from the earth or maybe the atmosphere around you into your perineum.
The perineum, that spot between the anus and genitals.
Okay.
Then the focus shifts to building what they call fire in the sex center, which they link to the first and second chakras. Grounding, creativity, sexuality down there.
So you're using your breath and your mind's eye to really gather energy in that lower region.
Yes, and then you circulate it. back and forth within that initial area first, then expanding it up into the belly, covering the second and third chakras until that fire feels stronger, more intense.
It sounds quite active, mentally and physically.
It definitely is. An interplay between breath, visualization, and noticing the physical sensations. All right, so the fire is burning in the belly.
Right.
Then we move it higher. Step 6 is the heart center.
Correct. Circulating energy now between the belly and the heart, linking the third and fourth chakras.
The heart chakra. That's usually associated with love, compassion.
Generally, yes. So you're bringing that generated energy up into a more emotional space. It kind of makes you wonder what opening that connection might feel like.
Then step 7, up to the throat. Fourth and fifth chakras. And they mention sounds.
Yeah, they say sounds might just happen naturally as the energy moves there, or you can consciously make sounds, humming, sighing, whatever, to help open the throat chakra.
Which is linked to expression, communication.
Right. So making sounds could potentially help release blocks in that area, allow a freer flow, maybe even feel more authentic self-expression. It's an interesting suggestion.
Then step 8, further up to the third eye, between the brows, right? Fifth and sixth chakras.
Yes. Circulating energy between the throat and the third eye now. This area is often tied to intuition, inner vision, insight.
So the focus shifts towards that kind of awareness.
Seems like it. Activating that intuitive center.
And the final step, step 9, takes the energy all the way to the top of the head, the 7th chakra.
That's right, the crown chakra. And here they describe the possibility of energy actually feeling like it's shooting out the top of your head. A big release.
Wow. And then potentially the full body orgasm experience.
Yes, that's the culmination. And the description of what might happen during that is, well, intense. Breathing changes dramatically, maybe screaming or other vocalizations, a feeling of melting, hysterical laughter even, back arching, fists clenching.
Sounds like a very powerful full system release.
Absolutely. A wide range of physical and emotional expressions seem possible, according to their description.
And they also mention that with practice, you can learn to sort of ride these waves, prolong the orgasms.
Yeah, suggesting you develop a greater sensitivity, a skill in navigating these intense energetic states over time. It's not necessarily just a one-off peak.
Okay. Now, beyond the steps themselves, they offer some important caveats and advice, don't they?
Oh, yes, definitely. Very practical points. First off, patience. This is crucial.
Right. It might not happen overnight or even over months.
Exactly. They say some people get it quickly, others might take years. But they stress that the breathing and the energy circling itself, even without the big O, is valuable for clearing blocks.
So value in the process, not just the end result.
It's all
That's helpful.
takes the pressure off, you know? And speaking of blocks, they prepare you for what might come up when they start to release.
Like crying, gagging.
Yes, or frustration, old memories surfacing. It can be uncomfortable, potentially.
And the advice is basically keep breathing through it.
Pretty much. Keep breathing, keep visualizing, releasing the old stuff, bringing in the new energy, using the breath as a tool to process whatever comes up.
Okay. They also talk about energy levels fluctuating during the practice.
Like sometimes you feel it building, then it might dip. If that happens, they suggest returning your focus to the sexual center, re-engaging the PC muscles to kind of reignite the process.
So that lower center is like the powerhouse, the anchor point.
Seems to be, yes, the place to return to if the energy flow falters.
And they mention belief. Believing it's possible is important.
A really key point. That inner conviction that this can happen for you apparently makes a big difference. They even suggest learning from someone who practices it can be really helpful, that transmitted sense of possibility.
That makes psychological sense, definitely. What about practical physical things, like if the PC muscles aren't strong or cramp up?
Good question. They advise just squeezing less intensely, or maybe less often if that's an issue, adapting it to your body.
Right. And using hands.
Yeah, they suggest you can use your hands to gently touch or even just fan over the energy centers, the chakras, to help guide the energy flow with your intention.
A bit more tactile guidance.
Okay.
And knowing about the chakras helps.
They say it can. Understanding the 7 main energy centers and maybe visualizing their specific qualities as you breathe through them can add another layer to the practice.
Okay. And where does this technique actually come from? They mentioned its origins.
Yes, they attribute this specific version to the fire breath orgasm taught by someone named Harley Swift-Deer of the Deer tribe.
Okay.
But they also place it in a broader context, noting similar practices historically in Cherokee ceremonies and also in other traditions known for working with sexual energy like Tantra and Taoism.
So it has roots A lineage. It's not just something totally new.
Exactly. It's a modern take on some long-standing wisdom about the body's energy potential.
And if people want to learn more, there are specific resources mentioned.
There are. Annie Sprinkle has a video called Sluts and Goddesses, and Jwala has a book, Sacred Sex, both apparently available via Tantra.com.
Okay.
And the site also points towards another video, something like Ancient Secrets of Sexual Ecstasy for Modern Lovers, featuring various teachers. So yeah, definitely avenues for further exploration if this sparks interest.
Great. So lots to potentially explore there.
Seems like it. A whole field of study, really.
Well, we've certainly taken a deep dive into this guide on energy orgasms today, walking through the method and the ideas presented by Annie Sprinkle and Jwala. It's definitely a different way of thinking about the body, pleasure, and energy.
Absolutely. It pushes beyond the purely physical definition of orgasm we often encounter and invites us to see the body as this, well, dynamic energetic system with maybe untapped potential.
It really does challenge conventional thinking.
It makes you reconsider what orgasm even is or what it could be.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listeners. We've talked about how understanding and consciously working with breath, movement, and focused intention might unlock this kind of powerful, full-body, energetic experience described in the source.
Right.
So the question to ponder is, if that connection can potentially reveal such unexpected dimensions, what other kinds of energies might be lying dormant within you? Maybe creative energy, emotional energy, even spiritual currents. What else might be waiting to be discovered if you approached it with a similar kind of focused awareness and intention?
That's a great question to leave people with. What else is waiting inside? Definitely food for thought.